It was supposed to be just another typical evening on the set of one of the most popular talk shows in Egypt. The host, Amir Hassan, known for his sharp wit and controversial questions, had invited none other than Mohamed Salah, the global football sensation, to join him for a special live segment. The world was watching, and all eyes were fixed on the charismatic footballer, who had become a symbol of hope and pride for millions. But something unusual was brewing behind the scenes. Mohamed Salah, the humble hero, was about to face an unexpected challenge, one that would push his patience, but also showcase a side of him few people had ever seen. As the camera rolled and the studio lights flashed, Amir Hassan welcomed Salah onto the set. The crowd erupted in applause, their cheers filling the air. But as the host's smile widened, something about his tone seemed off. "Mohamed Salah, ladies and gentlemen," Amir began, his voice filled with excitement. "The man who's broken records, won hearts, and made the entire world bow to his feet. But let's talk about something else today. You see, you're not just a football legend. You're also an ambassador for Egypt. And with that comes certain expectations." Salah's eyes narrowed slightly, sensing that the conversation was about to take an unexpected turn. He nodded politely, ready to engage, but Amir was already diving in. "I've heard a lot about you, Mohammed," Amir continued, leaning forward. "But one thing that's always struck me is how you present yourself, especially when you're outside of the spotlight. You've been known for your incredible humility, but what about your fashion choices? I mean, you've been seen wearing, let's just say, questionable outfits in public. Doesn't that undermine the image you've worked so hard to build? Don't you think it's time to show a little more respect for your status?" The audience fell into an uneasy silence. The question hung in the air like a weight that no one dared to touch. Amir, sensing the tension, flashed a smirk, waiting for Salah's response. But what happened next shocked everyone. The air in the studio had shifted. What started as a light-hearted conversation now felt like a battleground, and Mohamed Salah, the man who had conquered the football world, was at the center of it. Amir Hassan's words hung in the air, the sharpness of his question stinging more than anyone had anticipated. The audience, still in disbelief, leaned forward in their seats. Some held their breath, waiting for Salah to react. Others exchanged nervous glances, unsure of how this would unfold. Salah, however, remained composed. His face, usually a canvas of warmth and kindness, was now a mask of serenity. For a moment, there was silence. Salah didn't rush to respond. He looked at Amir, his eyes unwavering. The cameras zoomed in, capturing the tension. Amir, sensing an opportunity to push further, added with a sly grin, "I mean, you've got millions of people looking up to you, Salah. Don't you think it's time to step up and show them how a true icon should behave, starting with what you wear?" The entire studio fell into an uncomfortable quiet. You could feel the unease spread like wildfire, but Salah didn't falter. Instead of snapping back with anger or sarcasm, he took a deep breath, as if preparing to say something that would change the entire dynamic of the room. With a calm yet firm voice, Salah replied, "Amir, I understand your question, but I think you've misunderstood something important. My clothes, my appearance, they don't define who I am or what I stand for. I've always believed that humility and respect come from within, not from the brands I wear or the latest trends." A soft murmur of approval rippled through the crowd. Salah's words were measured, full of wisdom and grace. But Amir wasn't ready to let him off the hook so easily. He leaned in, narrowing his eyes, as if to challenge Salah even further. "But don't you think, Salah, that your position in the world demands more? The world needs role models, not just footballers." Salah smiled lightly, but his gaze never wavered. I don't think the world needs me to wear anything specific to be a role model. What matters is what I do, how I treat others, how I play the game. I hope my actions speak louder than anything else." It was a response that left the studio stunned into silence. Amir Hassan's smirk faltered for a split second. The crowd, sensing the subtle shift in power, waited for him to respond. But for the first time, the confident host seemed momentarily taken aback. Salah's calm, composed reply had caught him off guard. There was no defensiveness, no anger in the way Salah spoke. Instead, it was pure, unshakable confidence, an inner strength that radiated with every word. The live audience, now hanging on every word, shifted in their seats. Some eyes widened with admiration for Salah's dignified composure, while others remained fixed on Amir, wondering how he would react to such an unexpected turn. Amir cleared his throat, trying to regain control of the situation. "Well, I see you're sticking to your story, Salah," he said, his voice attempting to regain its earlier bravado. "But come on, you must see the point I'm trying to make. In this day and age, appearances are everything. And, as someone who's seen as a role model, don't you feel a responsibility to set a better example?" It was a jab disguised as a question, one that attempted to push Salah into a corner. But it was clear that Salah wasn't about to take the bait. "I understand what you're saying, Amir," Salah replied, his voice still steady. "But I believe a role model is someone who leads by example, who shows kindness, integrity, and humility. How I look on the outside doesn't change who I am on the inside. And to be honest, I think we've all got more important things to focus on in life than the clothes I wear." The tension in the room was palpable. Salah's words hung in the air like a gentle breeze, cutting through the host's attempts to steer the conversation. Amir's usual charm began to wane. He was losing ground, and everyone could see it. A slight shift in his posture signaled the discomfort that was beginning to bubble under his confident exterior. For the first time, the audience could see that Amir wasn't in full control. Salah had subtly, but decisively, taken the reins of the conversation. The studio cameras panned over the crowd, capturing expressions of admiration from the audience, their faces reflecting the silent support for Salah. Even those who had been skeptical of him, unsure of how he would handle this live confrontation, were now nodding in agreement. They were witnessing something rare, a moment where true character was shining brighter than any flashy words or cheap provocations. Salah's response, calm and composed, was a masterclass in handling controversy with grace. Amir's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, there was a slight crack in his confident demeanor. Salah's unshakable composure had thrown him off, and the audience could feel the change in the air. What had started as a light-hearted interview was quickly turning into something far more intense, and the host was no longer the one in control. A brief silence filled the room. It was as though everyone was holding their breath, waiting for Amir to come up with something, anything, that would salvage his standing in the conversation. But Salah's calm, steady demeanor seemed to have diffused the situation, making Amir's provocations appear weak and petty by comparison. And then, an unexpected shift occurred. From the back of the studio, a small group of football fans who had been silently watching the show suddenly rose to their feet, their voices breaking through the silence. "That's how it's done!" one of them shouted, a cheer of approval rippling through the small crowd of onlookers. The audience, which had been hesitating, uncertain of how to react, slowly began clapping. The applause grew louder, and even the crew members working the cameras paused for a moment, caught up in the powerful moment unfolding in front of them. Salah's dignified handling of the situation was resonating with more than just the fans in the audience. It was inspiring everyone in that room. Amir, visibly flustered, tried to regain his usual charm, but it was clear the tables had turned. He attempted another quip, this time about Salah's upcoming match. Well, Salah, I'm sure your fans would love to see you on the field more than on a talk show, huh? His voice was strained, his attempt at humor not landing as it usually would. But Salah, unfazed, simply smiled and leaned back in his chair. I've always believed that the field isn't the only place where we can make an impact. Sometimes, it's about how we carry ourselves off the field, too. It was another subtle but powerful jab. Salah wasn't just answering questions, he was teaching a lesson. In a room full of professionals, both behind and in front of the cameras, the message was clear. True strength wasn't about being the loudest voice in the room, but about standing firm in your beliefs, regardless of the pressure to conform. The host's demeanor had completely shifted. The man who had once seemed so powerful, so in control, was now stammering. His questions were losing their edge, and it was clear that Salah's reaction had taken everyone by surprise. But the real shock came moments later. Just as Amir was about to ask another question, the show's producer signaled to cut to a commercial break. The camera lights dimmed, and the clattering sound of the studio resetting was a clear signal that something had changed. What had been a scripted interview was now anything but. As the camera lights dimmed and the studio plunged into temporary darkness, a strange quietness enveloped the room. Salah leaned back in his chair, his calm demeanor unshaken, while Amir's face was flushed with embarrassment. The tension was thick, and everyone in the studio knew that something had shifted, irreparably. The producer's signal to cut to a commercial break seemed almost like a lifeline to Amir, who was now clearly struggling to recover from his failed attempt to undermine Salah. The audience, too, seemed to sense the magnitude of what had just happened, as if the entire atmosphere in the room had been recalibrated. The show's usual scripted nature had been shattered by a single, unexpected moment of dignity and restraint. In the brief silence, Amir quickly wiped his brow, his confidence crumbling away like sand. Salah, on the other hand, didn't seem to mind the pause. He sat, relaxed, not rushing to fill the silence with words or gestures. It was as if he understood exactly what had just happened and knew that the next steps were his to take. As the show went into its break, a producer quickly walked up to Amir, offering a few words of encouragement, but it was clear that nothing could undo the damage. Amir was no longer the dominant figure in the room. Salah had managed to shift the balance, showing that true power didn't come from dominating others, but from how you handled challenges with grace. The rest of the crew could feel it too. They were all accustomed to Amir's usual sharp wit and his ability to control any situation. But now, the crew members exchanged uncomfortable glances. What had been a fun segment to prepare for had turned into something much deeper, a live lesson in humility. When the commercial break ended, the cameras came back on. Amir, though trying to regain his composure, couldn't hide the subtle shift in his behavior. His usual jokes had evaporated. Instead, he fumbled through a few more scripted questions, but they were lifeless, lacking the usual charm he was known for. Salah, in contrast, seemed at ease. He smiled politely, maintaining a gracious demeanor. But it was clear to everyone watching that the balance of power had shifted. Salah wasn't just answering questions, he was teaching a lesson in humility and poise that was much bigger than football. "Thank you for your patience, Mohamed," Amir finally managed, his voice softer than it had been before. "I think we all learned something valuable here today." And just like that, it became evident. Salah had not only stunned the host, but had left a lasting impression on everyone in that room. The broadcast aired, and the world watched. What began as a routine interview turned into an unforgettable moment of humility and strength that rippled far beyond the confines of the studio. Social media exploded with reactions, clips from the show quickly going viral. Hashtags like Salah reaction, the grace of Salah, and humility over hype trended worldwide as people weighed in on the shocking turn of events. Within hours, Salah's dignified reaction had captured the hearts of millions. Football fans, sports commentators, and even celebrities from various fields were posting their support. It wasn't just about his performance on the field anymore. This was a glimpse into the true character of a global icon, a person who, when faced with provocation, chose the high road. From New York to Cairo, people were discussing what had happened. News outlets reported the interview with headlines like, "Mohamed Salah teaches valuable lesson in humility on live TV," and "Football icon turns tables on host in stunning display of class." Even those who weren't football fans couldn't help but admire Salah's ability to handle the situation with such grace. Comments flooded social media posts, from simple, "I respect Salah" messages, to heartfelt notes about how this moment inspired others to approach challenges with calmness instead of anger. Meanwhile, Amir was feeling the weight of his actions. Behind the scenes, his team was scrambling to manage the fallout. The host, known for his sharp wit and sarcasm, found himself in the hot seat for all the wrong reasons. His social media had flooded with comments criticizing his unprovoked behavior towards Salah, and some of his regular fans were now questioning his ethics. The studio, once filled with cheers and applause for Amir's quick wit, now echoed with uncomfortable silence. People who had once admired his style and humor began to reconsider their views. A few sponsors began reaching out to his team, wanting to distance themselves from the controversy. In contrast, Salah's reputation soared even higher. As the weeks went by, many saw him not just as a football hero, but as a role model for handling adversity with quiet strength. His humility, coupled with his reaction to Amir's attempted humiliation, became a beacon of how public figures should handle disrespect. By the time Salah played his next match, the world watched. Fans wore shirts that read, "Humility over hype," and many in the crowd had posters featuring his famous smile, quoting his calm words from the interview, "It's not about the game we play, it's how we play the game of life." And in the heart of the city, Amir sat in his dressing room, staring at his phone, realizing just how powerful Salah's message truly was. The days following the broadcast were filled with reflection, for both Salah and Amir. But it was clear that while Amir was trying to rebuild his image, Salah had done something far more profound. He had unknowingly sparked a movement. His calm demeanor in the face of adversity had not only reshaped his own legacy, but also left a lasting impact on the world. As Salah prepared for his next football match, the sports world buzzed with anticipation. News outlets, social media influencers, and even the most well-known figures in the entertainment industry discussed the aftermath. Salah's reaction to the humiliation was no longer just a story about a footballer. It was a symbol of grace, humility, and integrity. Salah's story became a powerful reminder to fans and individuals everywhere. Whether in the spotlight or behind the scenes, the way you handle challenges speaks volumes. His reaction, calm, composed, and respectful, was a lesson that transcended sports. It was about how to rise above negativity, how to remain true to one's values, and how to handle the most uncomfortable situations with dignity. Meanwhile, Amir, who had been the source of so much controversy, began to experience the full impact of his actions. His apology to Salah was broadcasted on social media, and while some tried to forgive him, others were less willing to let go of the damage he'd caused. His brand had taken a massive hit, and sponsors who had once endorsed him were now carefully reconsidering their involvement. But Amir, unlike Salah, struggled to find peace. He spent hours reflecting on what had transpired. How could he have misjudged someone who had never given him any reason to doubt his integrity? How could he have so blindly assumed that Salah was anything less than what he truly was? The lesson had been harsh, but Amir would not forget it. The episode went down in history as a turning point. Not only was it a moment of reckoning for Amir, but it became a textbook example of how to respond to humiliation with kindness and humility. Mohamed Salah had, without even realizing it, become the teacher in this story, and his lesson would resonate for years to come. As Salah took the field for his next match, he wasn't just representing his team or his country, he was carrying the weight of a lesson in humanity that would continue to inspire everyone who witnessed it. The world had seen how Salah responded to a public humiliation, and they would never forget his response. In this incredible story, we've seen a global football icon, Mohamed Salah, not just shine on the field, but display unparalleled grace under pressure in the face of public humiliation. His humble response to being disrespected live on TV shocked millions, turning what could have been a moment of anger into a defining display of character. The world saw a legend rise, not just through his athleticism, but through his integrity, composure, and wisdom. Through the course of the interview, Salah was subjected to disrespect by a TV host. But rather than retaliating or stooping to the host's level, he responded with dignity. His reaction transcended the situation, giving viewers a deeper understanding of who he truly is, not just as a football player, but as a human being. In doing so, he became a role model for millions across the globe. For Amir, the host, his careless actions created a storm of controversy. While Salah's reputation soared, Amir found himself at the center of backlash, struggling to repair his image and rethink his actions. The entire incident was a powerful lesson in humility, respect, and the importance of treating others with kindness, no matter their fame or status. This story proves that character, not confrontation, is the true measure of greatness. Salah's message of handling adversity with grace left a lasting impact, reminding us all that our responses to challenges define who we are. The lesson here is simple. In life, you may face situations that seek to humiliate or provoke you. How you react in those moments will not only shape your own legacy, but also teach others around you a lesson in humanity. Salah's dignity turned what could have been a moment of shame into a powerful statement of respect and honor.